Good evening and welcome to Connecticut Politics Live. I am Joe McGuire along with Michelle Bottella. We've got all the latest headlines affecting Connecticut. And coming up tonight at 5:30, we tried this last week. It went pretty well. We're going to give you another episode of the podcast, Divided We Stand, with Jimmy J and myself. Only this time, we're also going to be joined by Michelle Bottella, Dr. Amy Chai, activist Wayne Winston, and Cassidy Martineau. So it'll be a packed house. We're going to hit a bunch of different topics, and we're going to give you all sorts of different perspectives on those topics. Michelle, it should be entertaining, or it could be complete chaos.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Do I put the boxing gloves on, or I'm going to stay quiet this time?
Could be one of those nights. We'll find out. But we will have some fun. I do promise that tonight. Fun is on the card.
Yes. I like to agree to disagree, but at the same time, a little tension is fun too. So let's go with the headlines. So tomorrow, December 14th, 2022, marks 10 years since the tragedy at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, when 20 students and 6 educators were killed. Governor Ned Lamont directed all state and U.S. flags to be lowered half-staff from sunrise to sunset on Wednesday to honor the victims. The children killed at the Sandy Hook Elementary School on December 14th, 2012, should have spent their year thinking about college, taking their SATs, getting their driver's license, prom. Instead, families of the 20 students and six educators slain in the smash shooting will mark a decade without them tomorrow, Wednesday. December is a difficult month for many in Newtown. This is the Connecticut suburb where holiday season joy is tempered by heartbreak around this anniversary of the nation's worst grade school shooting. In mid-November, a memorial to the 26 victims opened near the new elementary school, built to replace the one that was torn down, after the shooting. It's a very sad day.
I can't even believe it's been 10 years. I mean, my goodness, it does go by in a flash. And again, to sort of think about where these kids would be in life, and knowing that they just got ripped away from their families way too soon, and just a completely senseless tragedy. I've had an opportunity to do some work with some of the Sandy Hook families, and I'll say this: the idea that these folks had took the worst thing that could have ever happened to their family and have turned the Catherine Violet Hubbard Foundation, for one, I did some work with. And it blows my mind, how mom and dad were able to channel this into something positive. I think it would absolutely break me down. So, credit to them. And it's going to be really hard tomorrow. Again, 10 years to just.
I remember it. I remember it vividly. I remember watching the news actually at the time, and my son and daughter were in elementary school at the time. And the first thing I did was run there. And get them out. You didn't know what was happening at that morning, and the teachers were all over it. The teachers were like, take your student, let's be careful. They were in watch. Everything was just, it was wonderful the way they took things and made it happen in this. Not knowing what to expect, not knowing where the shooter was, not knowing what was happening at that moment. Like I said, I remember it so vividly, like it was yesterday. So my heart goes out to these families.
Yeah. Again, especially this time of the year, it's just thinking about it is so difficult. But again, tomorrow, going to be the 10-year anniversary. Again, I can't believe it. I really can't. But well. Some good news here in the state of Connecticut. A well-known department store that was headquartered in Connecticut looks like it'll be returning in 2023. Ames Department Stores announced on its website they're coming back in the spring of 2023. The chain of discount stores was based in Rocky Hill, was founded by three Connecticut brothers, Milton Irving and Herbert Gilman, back in 1958. The company went through bankruptcy in 1990 and then again in 2002. In August of 2002, the company announced it would close its remaining 327 stores. According to the Ames Department Stores PLC LinkedIn, the project is being run by the Moneyloo Group, the owners of Bradley's Department Stores PLC. Bradley's, that's another
That brings me back. That brings me
Yeah.
back.
The company has not released a list of states where the stores will be just yet, but retro. That's all I could say. That's pretty crazy, right?
Absolutely. You know, I wonder sometimes, I don't want to call Ames a small business, that's for sure, but it's kind of nice to get away from the big Amazons and, you know, the big Walmarts and kind of bring back, you know, maybe some, like you said, retro, some hometown stores that we all remember. We'll see. Do you know what they're going to offer? Is it going to be the same as
pretty much
Walmart,
the
or?
same stuff? Yeah.
Okay.
And again, maybe listen, if Walmart got a little competition going, it wouldn't be the worst thing. I
Absolutely.
think,
That's
you
right.
know, again, in light of the economy, Michelle, higher inflation,
Mhm.
it's like, wow, okay.
Yeah,
Things must be going pretty well in the business world if
right.
someone's looking to open up another retail store. I think that's insane.
Yes, yes. I'm I mean, I don't know if it's good or bad. I know in Connecticut, uh, if you're a big corporation, you kind of get a little bit of a break as opposed to a small business, which needs to change, I think, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Because I think small businesses are the heart of community and they're the heart of America, I think.
Yeah.
But so I wonder if, you know, maybe that's what's happening. I don't know if they're given incentives to bring more business towards the state, which is a good thing as well. More employment. And I guess we'll see. Should be interesting.
Yeah.
Uh,
Surprising news to say the least, but I'm very welcomed, I thought.
yes, absolutely. And Connecticut will receive more than 5.7 million in initial grants to improve the accessibility of high speed across the state. The National Telecommunications and Information Administration announced Tuesday. This state is receiving a total of, ready for this one? $5,736,568.10.
Wow. It's very specific.
Right. In federal funding from the Biden administration's $65 billion investment under the bipartisan infrastructure law. Connecticut will receive $5 million from the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program, the BEAD or BEAD, to fund the following: creation of a 5-year action plan that identifies Connecticut's broadband access, affordability, equity, and adoption needs, identification of unserved and underserved locations,
Nice.
planning and capacity building of the state's broadband office, local engagement with unserved and underserved and underrepresented communities to better understand barriers to adoption. The state will receive $700,000 roughly from the Digital Equity Act to fund the following: creation of a Connecticut Digital Equity Plan, hiring of a digital equity program manager. There's always going to be a manager. And equipping that individual with the tools and support to ensure success in implementing the state's digital equity plan, establishing a core digital equity planning team of 8 to 10 members, including the state's BEAD program lead, conducting a needs and assessment plan, engagement to solicit input from residents and leaders from across the state. The $5.7 million announced Tuesday is part of the $100 million anticipated to be delivered to Connecticut over the next 5 years, as stated by the Lamont administration.
That's
This is
pretty great
good.
news too, Michelle.
It's
And I mean,
good.
I like the
Yeah.
idea that they're going to conduct a needs and assessment plan.
Yes.
They're going to
Yes.
think it out, plan it out, and then execute it. I also like that this money's coming from the federal government. And
For our
yeah,
taxes
obviously
go,
we'll
exactly.
bring some jobs in here to Connecticut. And again, I
Yeah.
like the idea of the underserved and you know, lesser served
Yes.
communities, make sure everybody's got that good high speed internet. This is great. So
Yeah, it's good, absolutely,
pretty good
yes.
news so far tonight.
And I think it shows a little bit of accountability as well as where our money is going, which is a good thing. And it needs to, like you said, the underserved who need to be helped. And I hope this continues in different aspects, especially, as we talk about always the home heating, heating oil
Yep.
and groceries and all that good stuff. That little extra money these people need help.
How about the good news continues? Drivers getting a bit of a early gift for the holiday season. Gas prices around the country are dropping. The
Oh,
average price in Connecticut is
yes.
now $3.36 a gallon. AAA says with low demand and the falling price of crude oil, you could save even more at the pump. AAA says the average price of a gallon of gasoline is down 17 cents from a week ago.
Mhm.
And from this time last year in Connecticut, the national average is $3.26, which is 14 cents cheaper than last week and 7 cents cheaper than it was this time last year. AAA says there's no telling exactly how low the cost of gas will be by Christmas or New Year, but drivers in Southington are already reporting paying as low as $2.79 a gallon.
Ah, yes. This is good to hear. They're doing something. I'm so happy to hear it.
Right?
Yeah,
All
yeah.
the good news tonight. I'm loving
I
this.
know, right?
What we need.
And then we have more fun at the bottom of the hour.
That we do.
Just fun and good news here on CT Politics TV. Organizations that make sure no one has to spend a night outside, more good news, especially when it's freezing out, are seeing a big increase in need. Our entire system that responds to the emergency of homelessness is really kind of under siege, said Margaret Middleton, CEO, the Columbus House. Middleton runs the organization, the Columbus House, which just opened its overflow shelter. It operates several shelters actually, in the state, including New Haven. There are a number of things that are driving the explosion in housing instability. One thing is the incredibly high rental increases. So the rate at which rents are going up is just driving people out of housing. They can't afford to rent a place at all, Middleton said. Another driver is the eviction moratorium coming to an end. According to the Columbus House, there are more than 3,000 people who are experiencing homelessness in the state right now, which has surged since the pandemic started. Those looking for help can call 211. Yeah, it's good that there are shelters and they are really coming around the state. And then it's bad news as well that they're such needed. Um, I know there's a lot of people that want to help out there, and there's ways to get help if you're, whether you need shelter, whether you need food, even a person to talk to. We've been talking about the Covenant House and what they're doing in
Yep.
Wallingford, and there's so many other charities around the state that are willing to help, which is great. But unfortunate, yes, the rent prices, people can't afford to live in a place. It's disturbing actually that this has to happen in the greatest country in the world.
Yeah, I interviewed Jacqueline Rabe Thomas from Hearst, Connecticut Media last week on the radio, and she just finished doing a report, Michelle. These Section 8 vouchers that they're giving to people so that
Yeah,
they can find a place, about 50% of them are not being used because of the high cost of rent,
really.
because of the amount of time it takes to get these things processed. Even though the rent's guaranteed with the Section 8 voucher, it's such a long, strenuous process that for a lot of landlords, they're like, I'll do it. You legally you're supposed to, but it's
Yeah,
such a tedious and long process that oftentimes it's like, it's easier to rent it to a person paying cash,
right, right.
without the red tape. The other big issue we're finding is, I mean, in addition to just low inventory of places on the market, is a lot of these vouchers, if you live in one town, you're not able to use the voucher in another town. And
Right,
so a lot of red tape is causing a
right.
lot of these issues. Excellent piece, by the way. Jacqueline Rabe Thomas wrote, Connecticut Hearst Media. You should definitely look it up. It was thorough investigating, and again, just to see people kind of down and out on their luck. They win these vouchers. They're like, oh, this will be great. And then they're not able to use it after 5 or 6 months because they just can't find a place. Connecticut's
Right,
having a rough time right now as far as
right.
housing is concerned, for sure.
Yeah, no, and I'm going to get a little political. I'm going to go there. In 20, I want to say, was it 2008, maybe 2009, maybe 2013. Um, they used to give vouchers to the homeless with stipulations. So, you can get a place to stay. You can get money to live and to eat, but show us that you have the capability of getting a job, that you can stay off drugs, that you can. And I'm not saying that all the homeless are on drugs, but the majority. And you know what? Homelessness went down because people had to prove themselves, and it gave them dignity. And I'd love to see this come back. When I believe it was, actually, I should, forgive me, I don't remember the dates, but I think it was actually 2013 when that stopped. And we were just handing out vouchers and handing out, which, it's one thing when people really need help, but it's the other thing where it's like, you know what? Yeah, why not? They're going to give me a free place to stay. They're going to give me free food. They're going to be, so this is kind of a stickler with me. I'm all for helping people. Don't get me wrong. I've housed people. I've housed homeless people, but at the same time, let's give them back their dignity. Let's give them back a way to say, you know what? Hey, we have a job for you. Are you willing? So that's my 2 cents.
Meanwhile, a tart retort by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy to the U.S. offer of help in a call by former President Donald Trump for the termination of parts of the Constitution are the top of Yale Law School librarian's list of the most notable quotations of 2022.
Oh,
You'll recall back in February, only days after Russia invaded Ukraine, the U.S. offered to transport Zelenskyy to safety. That did not sit well with him. He said, I need ammunition, not a ride.
right.
Great comment. Number 2 on this list was Trump's comment December 3rd on Truth Social Media, where the president said a massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. Our great founders did not want and would not condone false and fraudulent elections. This list is assembled by Shapiro. It's a supplement to the New Yale Book of Quotations, which is edited by Shapiro and published by Yale University Press. You can check out the full list of quotes at ctpolitics.tv/headline-news.
Yeah.
Some quotables.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Michelle, I
Those
had
are
a whole bunch of conservatives last week on conservative radio when I mentioned Trump suggested that we suspend the Constitution. They're like, he didn't say that. And I'm like, I'm reading his
the
quote from
quotes.
his
Yeah,
social media. He definitely said it. Again, listen, if you want to argue he was being hyperbolic or whatever have you can argue that, but
yeah,
those were the
yeah,
actual words that he was putting out there in the stratosphere. And we're going to talk about this just after 5:30, but those words may come back to bite him because right now support among Republicans has dropped
yeah.
significantly for the former president. And we'll tell you who everyone's getting behind coming up after 5:30 on our very special episode of Divided We Stand.
That's right. The I don't know the context of that quote. I didn't hear it, but we'll have to talk later about that one.
Oh, we'll get into it for sure.
But meanwhile, I'm sure we will. The holiday season, an overwhelming amount of families across the country are slated to hit the road. According to AAA, more people will travel this Christmas, New Year's holiday compared to 2021. An estimated 113 million are set to journey 50 miles or more away from their home between December 23rd and January 2nd, 2023. AAA said a 3% increase from last year. Since Christmas and New Year's Day both fall on Sunday, this calendar year, travelers are able to extend their vacations, Mako said. She explained that with hybrid work schedules, more and more people are taking longer travel weekends. The increase of travelers might also be due to the gas price decrease. Mako said. However, airfares are higher. AAA numbers show that just over 1 million Americans will drive to their holiday destinations, while 7 million will fly, and just over 4 million will take another mode of transportation. I guess train. Okay, I was going to say walk.
Yeah. How else are
Sorry.
we getting there? Yeah, the train.
It's good though. People need to get away. I'm glad. And just very quickly, I've been to Europe many times, and it always amazes me actually that they just know how to relax and take a vacation over there. It's amazing. Then you come back here to the rat race of America, and you got to go to work. You got to do this. You got to do that. Especially in the Northeast. But in Europe, they know how to relax, and so this is kind of good.
You make a great point. I'll say the other thing about this particular news is, we're looking at like pre-pandemic level travel again. I think
True, which is
for the
great.
most part, we've talked a long time about getting back to normal. It looks like we're getting there. It looks like
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
finally kind of turning the corner on that, and we are getting there. So that is also, I think, excellent news. Meanwhile, lawmakers should be prepared to act quickly to pass a resolution funding the federal government for 1 week as negotiators continue to work on a longer-term spending bill. That's according to Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. Schumer described weekend talks over a funding package as positive and productive conversations, enough that both sides are moving forward to reach a deal, even if it's not going to be everything both sides want. We just talked about this the other day, Michelle,
Yeah.
that idea of partisanship finding its way back in D.C. these days. Congress finds itself in a familiar position, facing a midnight Friday deadline to pass a spending bill to prevent a partial government shutdown. A vote to fund the government for 1 week gives negotiators more time, but also pushes back the deadline to December 23rd, giving lawmakers more incentive to compromise as they face the prospect of being in Washington for the holidays. And they don't want that.
No.
The two parties are at odds mostly over how they should be allowed to allocate for non-defense spending in the next fiscal year. Republicans have argued that Democrats were already able to secure money for an array of healthcare and environmental priorities through previous party line votes. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said any final agreement needs to fund defense at the level written into a defense policy bill that passed the House last week, about $858 billion, without lavishing extra funding beyond what President Joe Biden has requested on his domestic programs.
Oh, this is another one of bottom of the hour.
Oh, we certainly will get into this one as well.
Absolutely.
Again, though, Michelle, we just talked about this the other day, and again, knowing that we move into the new session in Washington, D.C.,
Right.
It's a slight majority for the Republicans in the House. It's a small majority for the Democrats in the Senate. And as Chuck Schumer said, you're not all going to get what you want. And
Sure.
to me, that's how
Yes.
government works. It's going to be about sitting down, negotiating, and figuring out what you can do to make as many people happy as you can and to work together. I think it's the kind of thing that this country needs, as divided as things have been of late. So, again, all in all, a lot of good news here tonight.
Oh, absolutely. And you're right. And you're right. We need negotiation, and working together is the way to get things done. And well, let's see about the weather. A lot of people are going to be a little disappointed if they're going shopping. A brief flurry or snow squall in a few towns, otherwise clear, windy, and cold. Lows in the 10s and 20s. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, windy, and colder. Highs in the lower mid-30s. Wind chill, upper teens, and middle 20s. Thursday, becoming cloudy and chilly with highs of 35 to 40. There's going to be a mix of rain developing late day and at night. And then here comes the fun part. The snow and sleet will accumulate in higher elevations of Litchfield and Hartford counties. Friday, we're watching closely. It's going to be a mixed winter storm with rain mix going to rain, mostly with heavy wet mix across the northwestern hills, meaning maybe a lot of ice. Windy with highs in the 30s and to lower 40s. Saturday, becoming partly sunny and windy with the highs in the low 40s. And the Sunday, we got sun and cloudy, breezy and cloudy with highs in the 30s. So yeah, to me, I love snow. The ice is, nobody likes driving in the ice, but you know what? I think Connecticut does a really good job with the roads. And so I'm just be careful out there. And we will be right back after this commercial. Again, we have Cassidy Martineau and Wayne Winston, and hope to see you back here.
CT Politics TV and the Connecticut Taxpayers Union present Unaffordable America with Daniel Kent Newmeyer, Joe Patrina's band Little House, focusing on Connecticut.
Now get yourself ready, go cat, go. Ooh, yeah.
Entertaining and taking an educational look at nonpartisan issues of affordable living in America.
Born in a land where we wave 'em high.
All points of view are welcome.
And we got blue angels climbing in the sky. I'm the luckiest guy in America. I'm the luckiest man born in America.
Join the Connecticut Taxpayers Union right now at ctpolitics.tv.
Born in America.
Hey, everybody.
Greetings, Michelle. Greetings, Joe. How are you all tonight?
We are doing great. Our friend Jimmy is muted because if he wasn't, we'd be hearing his amazing poem.
Oh, I was wondering where that was.
Right.
All right, here we go. I'm sorry. Here we go. 10 years tomorrow, a tragedy fell here. It brought this state and this country to a tear. 20 children in school and teachers as well. A sick person had a gun and they all fell. 10 years later, and we're still in debate. Guns or no guns, illness or hate. Twitter continues to amuse, being national topics and front page news. Make the dump ball ready, not this drip. Let's see it all, not just the tip. Biden beats Trump, but both would be beat. DeSantis wins in 24 as long as he doesn't tweet. Welcome to Divided We Stand. I am Jimmy J, that Adonis of a man.
There you go.
Joe
Okay.
McGuire. We are joined by some very, very special and awesome people tonight. My fellow conservative and my favorite person on this panel, Michelle Botello.
Oh,
Hey,
wow.
your favorite
Thank you.
person.
Well,
I love
she
it.
is my
I
fellow
love it.
conservative. Right?
She's
That's
my
right.
favorite person, too.
We
That's
have
right.
the independent Dr. Amy Chai up there in the right-hand corner, and down in the lower left by, just randomly, he's not lesser than Joe by any stretch of the imagination, the former candidate, Brian Marin. Well, guys,
Merlin. Yeah.
Marin.
Merlin.
Merlin.
I'm sorry.
I'm from
just very
Korea.
quickly, I just want to announce to our viewers that I was misinformed. So thank you, Brian, for joining us tonight. We have probably other guests a different night.
No worries about that. We're going to have some fun tonight, guys. So this special episode of Divided We Stand, I think we're gonna format it a little bit differently because there's 5 of us. Normally, Joe and I just duke it out, right? So I think this time I'm going to take some topics, and then I'm going to go around and we're going to get everybody's takes on it, and then we'll have a couple seconds to debate until I move on to the next topic. So
Jimmy, I brought my boxing gloves. What does that mean? I can't use them?
Oh no, we're going to. After everybody gets their 1 or 2 minutes to say it, and then we'll duke it out after that. All right.
Yep.
So,
Gotcha.
seeing how Joe has been my co-host for the past year and some change, I'm going to allow him to go first, and we're going to talk about Sandy Hook. Yes, tomorrow is 10 years to the day that tragedy took place in Newtown, Connecticut. where 20 children and 6, I don't know if they were all teachers, but 6 adults were tragically taken from us. So the debate now, because Ned Lamont is actually bringing this back up here in the state of Connecticut, is about assault weapons ban and about gun control. So, Joe, I'm going to get you go first.
Listen, I've never been a big fan of banning things. I think when you ban things, you just make them more desirable. But all we have seen in the last 20, 30 years in this country, going back to Columbine and straight through Sandy Hook and then some, is these terrible tragedies, which, I don't know that they would be completely unavoidable, but it seems to me that every school shooting comes along with particularly an AR-15 that seems to be the weapon of choice. And again, while I support the Second Amendment greatly, I also support the right for children to go to school and be safe. And I think it's a small minority of gun owners. It's mostly gun manufacturers who really are opposed to an all-out ban. But if we can't put actual common sense laws in place to keep our children safe at school every single day, I don't know that I have, necessarily have a problem with banning these weapons from public use.
A very liberal point, like I was, I assumed it would make. So now I'm going to turn it over to our special guest here because, he's a former candidate. I would really love to hear what he says. Brian, so where do you fall on gun control, my friend?
I think it's a difficult issue because of the Second Amendment, because oftentimes these things get fought out in the court and, different jurisdictions might lean this way or that way in their outcomes. And so I understand a lot of people, they fundraise, on the Democratic Party or the left on this issue, and they try to speak on it quite frequently. But as for, real world change, I think it's difficult because of the Bill of Rights, I think you'd need substantial change to implement any kind of meaningful reforms. It's not that I'm necessarily super pro gun. It's just realistically, I don't know how, those against the status quo are going to change it. Or, perhaps there's other ways in terms of security we could try to mitigate the losses,
Absolutely. Good point. I'm actually going to hold my tongue until the after round. So I'm going to go to my fellow conservative just because Dr. Chai was busting my stones earlier. So, Mbot, I'm pretty sure I know how you feel about this. But before you go, I want to bring something up real quick. All right. The 1994 assault weapons ban signed into law by Bill Clinton. Right. Studies have been done for that, because that was only a decade long. But studies have been done and nothing changed. The murders by assault weapons came down, but crimes committed by other guns went up. So the crimes never went down, just the weapon of choice changed. So that obviously, in my opinion, was a flop. Please.
Well, I have to first say that I'm very disappointed in my liberal friends because I was ready to duke it out, but I agree with them. Yes, the Constitution. I don't want to change it, and it will be difficult to change. But you know what? It comes down for me is the level of the accountability for criminals. It just seems like criminals have feel like emboldened. Okay, they've gotten more emboldened, and I'm sure Dr. Amy Chai will speak on this heartily. We have a big mental crisis in this country. We've got these kids, it's oh my word, this could be I can talk this for hours. We've got the family unit, the no fathers in the houses. We have, the kids going out in the street, trying to feel accepted. How do you feel accepted sometimes? They join gangs, they feel empowered. That gun makes them feel empowered. So it comes down to, first of all, I think we need to solve the issue with families. We need to like I know, like forgive me, I do a lot of, I've been to Europe quite a bit in many countries, and I've seen they have a lot of gun control laws, and they do have much less shootings than we do, and everything's more controlled. But at the same time, criminals do not get away with a lot of stuff there. You feel safe. You can feel safe. I did anyway. Anyway, again, it starts with the family. It starts with, supporting our police more, making sure that there's a policing community where police and the community feel interacted. They know each other. Getting kids involved in, yesterday we had a guest who did, started a former state rep. Russ Morin, and great guy, and he started Playscape. Things like that. Kids need to be involved in after school programs. Know they have someplace to go, someplace to be busy. And again, it comes down to the mental issue. It comes down to, I don't necessarily think we should be taking away guns, because in my opinion, and this is my last point, I promise, Amy, is after all that, you take away guns. So then what else do they start taking away from you?
A slippery slope. So,
Yes.
Dr. Chai, MBOT kind of threw a portion of that back on you. She was politician in there. You see that? She didn't want to talk about the mental health issues. That was a good move. Good move, Michelle.
Flipped to you, Doctor. Yes.
So,
Absolutely.
Dr. Chai, I think you could pick it up from there, no?
I can. And I just want to probably, look at this a little bit differently. And I want to think about what causes mass shootings, what gun is used in mass shootings, and are mass shootings the main problem with gun violence? And although mass shootings are horrific, the actual demographic that is most likely to be murdered, as far as children getting murdered, is actually African American children, who are murdered several times at several 100% higher rates than white children. But we don't really have great flag lowering ceremonies for these children, because apparently they don't elicit the same emotional response on a national level for whatever reason. But these children are harmed because of bad policies in urban areas that perpetuate poverty and illiteracy and drug abuse. And when they drop out of school and they become a runner for a gang, and they get shot in the head, or they're coming home from school and they get shot because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. I've picked up the pieces of children who've died this way, and it's not a pretty sight. So I think the whole, the assault rifles are the most common mass shooting instruments. So I think we could easily solve that by limiting and monitoring the sales of LCMs, or large capacity magazines. That's how I would handle that. I wouldn't handle it by banning the weapon itself. And as far as the urban crime and the killing of minority children, I think that really starts with actually caring about the children and how they're educated in the schools, and actually treating mental health. Did you know that there's a 1 year wait for pediatric mental health referrals? 1 year. And that's if you have insurance. If you don't, it's a wait of an eternity. Yeah. So this is our fault, people. It's not the fault of the guns. We've seen the enemy, and it's us.
I actually agree with you. And a lot of that, Joe and I have talked on our podcast, this podcast, that education is key, right? We need to educate people, especially in the inner cities, right? So I actually have a friend of mine, real quick, and I want to turn it over to see if Brian has anything he wants to bash on anybody. But I have a friend of mine in the corrections officer right now. He's down in a children's or a juvenile detention facility. And this is what they're telling him. They're getting paid $500 to go steal a catalytic converter that's going to make some other guy more than that. They get pinched. They go to juvie for 2 weeks. and go back home, get their $500.
Right.
They don't care. They don't, like, these children are now running these streets. It's committing,
Yep.
children are committing crimes right now.
Yep.
Right. So
Mhm.
I agree wholeheartedly. And I'm praying to God that it's, not only a matter of time before we see a lot of guns in the hands of these children.
Oh,
That-
they're already in the hands of those children.
That would just be,
Yeah.
the
I
cops
also
shooting a kid
I
in the-
have to wonder if the kids that are running the streets, as you say, are probably not going to school, and it's probably safer for them to be on the streets than it is to be in school where they're sitting targets.
Yeah,
Well, we actually haven't
that.
seen the crazy, deranged people go into inner city schools. They're usually going to suburban schools.
That is true.
So actually, they're much safer in urban schools where they have metal detectors.
And they have
So
security
they have
policemen.
deterrence. Is that what you're saying?
I
Dr.
actually
Chai?
worked. Yes, I
Yeah.
worked in the public school system. So we had a police officer walking around the halls constantly. Great guy. It was wonderful. And, again, inner city. And I agree, the suburbs need to up their game. There needs to be some sort of deterrent. I agree.
Brian, you want to jump in here? Because we can yell at each other
Right.
for hours. Just to let you know.
Well, my only concern is, like, in specifically Stanford, I know of cases where they've criminalized children in the school systems for food fights, and so I hate to see, and that's happened, like, in my town multiple times, and so it's disappointing because you see the police being misused in a way that these children then end up with significant charges in some of these cases. If you look at Stanford's history, and that affects
food
them
fights?
going forward.
Really?
For food
Charged?
fights, because
Really charged.
Yeah.
though.
Yeah. And
charged
what we do need to look at what's called restorative justice as opposed to punitive justice. Because when you discipline children by making them feel ostracized and punished and, like, basically saying you're bad, you're bad, you're bad, then they're like, I'm a bad boy. And kind of the bad boy kind of becomes their identity.
Right.
But when you have restorative justice saying, I know you're actually good and you really want to learn and let's help you get there. I mean, that's a totally different approach. And that's why I think restorative disciplinary practices, especially in the urban school settings, are so important. And yeah, I've seen criminalization of stuff that, heck, I did all the time when I was a kid. I don't know if you guys did, but I did. I did some kind of bad things.
Okay, one of the perks of being the host tonight, because Joe is letting me be the host tonight, is that I get to stop at everything. We're going to move on quick. All right. So, Brian, this one's for you first. I'm just going to say one word and let you go with it, because I bet you can. Twitter.
It's difficult for me because I support the mission of SpaceX and the mission of Tesla, in terms of, like, I think it's so important for us to become a multiplanetary species so that we're not risking, an asteroid or a man-made disaster wiping us out. And likewise, I'd love to see progress on the emission front. I'm a Green New Deal signer. And so it's very difficult for me, because on one hand, I support his mission so much, but I don't enjoy some of his posts. Clearly, like I don't like transphobic jokes. I have a lot of friends in the trans community. I really support the community, and I think it's inappropriate when they and other marginalized communities are scapegoated. And the other thing I don't like is the narrative that it's just a right-wing problem, because Jim Himes still has me blocked right now, like on all social media apps. And, it's clearly the suppression goes both ways. It's not just the right-wing candidates who experience it. I experienced, a lot of problems. I had the recordings of Himes and I with the meeting when him and Dita were trying to get me to drop was flagged as private information when I tagged our entire Connecticut congressional delegation. And they actually turned my Twitter off for a while. And so it's till I deleted the post, basically, and then they let me back on. But it's frustrating because it's like this whole narrative they're creating. It's not just a right versus left thing, because I'm in a group chat with all the progressives from all over the country. I imagine Twitter employees were reading our group chat. I imagine, we're shadow banned. I think there are merits to some of what he brings up, but I wish he would go about it differently. And a lot of us who support EVs and support trying to cut the emissions, I don't know why he's not aligned with us politically, because, here he's benefiting from the Inflation Reduction Act and the EV subsidies significantly, yet he's agreeing with people. Like I was watching conservatives argue with him today that EVs have no merit. So I don't understand his political alignment in that regard either. Is my current thinking on it. But overall, I wish him luck in the missions, because I think it's important missions. I just wish he'd perhaps stop tweeting and be a little more responsible. His Twitter his tweets on Twitter have hurt his company's stock price and his image in a lot of people's minds, I think. Although Heim still drives a Tesla.
There you go.
Right now.
Hey,
Yeah.
Dr. Chai, Brian brought up left and right, conservative and liberal. Before we go down that road more, do you think can you take an angle of First Amendment and freedom of speech on this one?
Yes, I can. And I am a free speech absolutist, as you probably know. The only thing worse than silencing me is compelled speech, where you're forced to agree with something that you don't agree with in order to make someone else feel, validated. I have zero tolerance for that. I believe if someone says something offensive, well, I'll just scroll on by, or I might kind of troll them and argue with them and enjoy the oh, I don't do that. I never do that. Sorry. I never enjoy doing that. No, I believe in free speech. I don't have a lot of feelings that easily get hurt. I get it. Some people do. And I know who I can and can't argue with. But, Elon is kind of my celebrity crush, to be honest. I'm so happy for what he did at Twitter. I really am. And it's a beautiful thing. And free speech, the First Amendment, is really the most important amendment in my mind. And don't take away my thoughts, my speech, or anyone else's. And if you don't like what I say, then don't listen. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Oh, you're muted, Jimmy. You're muted.
Dang it. All right, there we go. So Amy brought up God dang it, the whole mute thing threw me off.
Oh, that's okay.
Dang it. All right, you know what, Michelle? What do you think about the Twitter and the free speech deal? How about that? We're just going to go there until I can think of a better.
Well, just like Amy, our First Amendment, one of the most important amendments. If you don't have free speech, it was funny because you had all these celebrities talking about banning buying Teslas because of Twitter, and which is interesting because they're all about saving the planet and the EVs, but now we got to ban Tesla, and also at the same time, we don't like what he's saying. And again, to Amy's point, who cares? You don't like it, turn him off. Don't listen to him. That's the whole point to me, as far as this, as political candidate, and Amy knows as well, and Brian, I'm sure, you're constantly being bashed on, and you have to have some thick skin. And then, you know what? Do I dare say it? Sticks and stones. Seriously, it just, to me, it's, if you can't talk about your feelings or what you believe in the country with this great, that is the country to talk about it, then we're screwed. So we have to, it just has to stop. People always stop doing this because he says this, and it's just, to me, it's just childish.
It's so middle school.
You know what? There you go.
Yeah.
Joe. So I'm going to come to you on this one specific topic because I know how we've dealt with it before. Hate speech on Twitter.
All right. Let's start with this. First of all, Your First Amendment rights are not protected on Twitter because while I know everyone loves Elon Musk, he's so awesome, he's not the government. It's a platform. We can't run this show on Facebook because for some reason, partisan news violates their community standards, which just goes to show Facebook and Twitter don't really have community standards. Okay. Much like Dr. Amy Chai, I consider myself a free speech absolutist. I just block idiots who I don't care to listen to. And I assume they're doing the same thing to me. And if they're not, well, enjoy what I say. Stop crying about it. Like, I totally get that. Here's the other thing about Elon Musk and Twitter specifically right now. Look, he's trying to drive engagement on a dying platform. And every idiot, especially to the left, is taking the bait on this hook, line, and sinker. This guy, I can't believe that Elon Musk can honestly be as full of what he's full of right now. I think he's just trying to get people fired up. It seems to be working. I pay no attention to the idiot behind them. I don't care, to be honest. I'm not on there for Elon Musk. I will say this: Dr. Amy Chai made a pretty benign comment the other day, and hundreds of people attacked her, especially people to the left, and had a lot of terrible things to say about a woman who they accused of her white privilege showing. And it's like, if you don't like what Dr. Amy Chai said, move on. You can go move on and you can go find your bubble where people are saying everything that you want to hear. I spent a lot of time doing conservative radio with my liberal ideas, and the snowflakes all over the state of Connecticut are, oh my God, he's saying truth and I hate it because it's not what I want to hear. People have to grow up. Honestly, people need to grow up. If you don't like what you're hearing, change the station. If you don't like the person that's tweeting, follow somebody else. Right. Otherwise, be open-minded and listen to what people are saying. And if you have questions, rather than attack, ask people why they think and feel the way they do. Jimmy and I are able to do this podcast every single week for the last year and a half because Jimmy and I don't hold each other accountable for the things happening in D.C. by the parties that we support. They do it. We talk about it. I can't be mad at him for things Donald Trump tweets. He's not mad at me for things that Hunter Biden might have on his laptop, right? It's not our fault. We just have opinions. We talk about it, and we're trying to understand each other's perspective. I really think America as a whole needs to grow up.
Amen. Well, all right.
If I may, just real quick. So interesting point. Donald Trump is pretty much the guy who kind of built Twitter, if you think, with all his followers and his tweets and what have you. Then he gets banned, but the Ayatollah Khomeini is no problem saying hate to America is on there full force. It's like it just gets.
But he doesn't say hate to America on his Twitter account. He's smart enough to not do that.
He's smart enough not to. Well, it's known exactly.
Yeah, he knows how to follow the community standards.
Right. So it just makes you think. You got the 45th president of the United States banned on an American platform, and then you have, Mr. Ayatollah over there. Sure, say whatever you want. So that
I'm pretty sure Putin has his account still up too right now. I'm pretty sure Putin never had his account deleted. Putin.
No.
Does Putin have an account?
Yeah.
I don't think he does. Oh, does he?
Does?
Oh.
Yep.
I didn't know. Oh, I'll have to follow him.
I'll have to follow him.
Let me check.
The last I heard, I wasn't, but go ahead and check because I'm on my phone right now. But go ahead and check. But I thought he did. But all right, last topic, guys, because we only got a couple of minutes left. Who's going in 24? Who's going to win? Who can win? And who should we, Michelle?
So.
Go.
Snoopy the dog. No. You know what? Honestly, I don't know if Donald Trump can win on the Republican side anymore. He's going to try, and I think he had great policies for this country. I know you all hate me for that saying that, but he did. On the Democrat side, I think if they run Joe Biden, then the Republicans have huge chance to win anything right there. I hope. I don't really know. I just hope for candidates that want to do what's right by this country and want to help our economy, our children, our elderly, all that good stuff. What do you say? That's it.
So a Fox News poll just came out and said Biden beats Trump 49.5 to 46 or something like that.
Oh, come on.
But this is Fox News now, Michelle. This is Fox News. But DeSantis beats Biden 51. So he's over 50%.
Yeah.
Amy, Dr. Amy Chai, you're the independent in the group. Not represented in those two names that I just said. 3 names, actually.
Right.
How do you feel about it?
I feel like, who should I choose? Should I choose Krusty the Clown or should I choose It? Now, if you saw It without his costume, he's actually pretty hot as an actor. But it's like Crazy Clown or Demented Clown. It's hard to say. I would actually vote for Andrew Yang or Tulsi Gabbard if they were running. Probably. Or Joe Jorgensen. I don't feel like I ever want to vote for a Republican or a Democrat ever again. Ever again.
We're running out of time, so I don't want to cut you off. Amy, but we're going to go to Joe real quick. I know that you're a Brandon lover. You love Joe Biden. You got a picture of him above your nightstand. You pray to him every night before you go to bed. I know you're rooting for him, but go ahead and tell me what you think, Joe.
I'll say this. That's not true for anybody who thinks it might be. I listen. You
Joe,
know,
I'll let you borrow my boxing gloves there.
Yeah, he's definitely. I voted for him, and I I had to because the choice was clear in that last election. That being said, the Democrats are going to have to do a lot better than Joe Biden. That said, though, look at this midterm. Don't underestimate Joe Biden and the Joe Biden administration because things have turned around quickly. This recession's going to wrap up right around the middle of 2023, heading into 2024, just in time for the Democrats to be like, hey, we solved inflation while these guys were really busy investigating Hunter Biden and trying to deprive the Ukrainians from a win in their war against Russia. So I think the Republicans could be setting themselves up for failure. That said, Donald Trump's got to go. He's poison. He made Connecticut somehow bluer. That's how bad of a candidate he was. Not even being on the ballot, he made this state bluer, if you can believe that. That said, I don't love Ron DeSantis, but I do think Ron DeSantis is going to be the president in 2024, unless somehow Peter Buttigieg can upset him in the race.
All right. Brian, we got 2 minutes left. You go as long as you want, but I'm just letting you know I'm going to give you 1 full clear minute, and then I'm going to let everybody jump on you. So, you got 1 minute.
Brian, you've been different.
I mean, I think it's hard to take an incumbent out. I wish Joe Biden good health. I've disagreed with much of his career in terms of mass incarceration. I view a lot of what I'm trying to do in my career, or at least as an activist, as trying to undo what he did, because, this whole, mass incarceration, war on drugs thing, it's not how he treats his own son when it comes to, getting sufficient treatment, something I would like to see for all of our country. And, I wish him good health. I suspect if he's still in good shape, he will be the candidate. And as for who wins, I think it comes down to if the Republicans are willing to move on for Trump or not, because Trump is not going to help them win.
No.
And so, I don't know what they're going to decide. I think Trump is a difficult person for a lot of people in the Republican Party to move on from, but I wish they would, because he's not led to great things for our country in terms of the division, and a lot of us are willing to try to compromise on issues and get things done. And I don't think he's been a motivating factor in that, as far as he coins himself, a deal maker, he has, polarized our country. I would say instead,
I understand what you're saying, and we got to wrap it up soon. So again, privilege of being the host tonight. I understand that you're saying that he's a divisive person, and I'm not disagreeing with that, Brian. But the 24-hour news cycle, to me, is what made this country divided. Now, Trump's tweets, okay, I get it. Joe Biden's gaffes, okay, I get it. You know, even Bill Clinton banging interns, okay, I get it. But the 24-hour news cycle that is pushed bad messages on both sides, attacking both sides 24 hours a day.
Yeah,
That's so
7
true.
days a week.
That's
Now,
so
that,
true.
in my opinion, is where the divisiveness came from. Using the candidates, the president, our politicians as scapegoats, if that's a correct term. But
I think
again,
Mitch McConnell would like nothing more than for Merrick Garland to do him a solid and charge Donald Trump with crimes against humanity so that they can just take that dude out and blame it all on the Democrats.
Yeah,
all right, Joe.
I agree.
Joe, you want to take us home tonight, buddy?
Oh, Joe,
I
before
do.
you do that, just very quickly, I just wanted to let everybody know the Respect for Marriage bill did pass. Just very quickly, it provides statutory authority for same-sex and interracial marriages, which, again, this could be another show because I thought we already had that. But anyway, it pretty much, I think it redefines the law of marriage between a man and a woman. And just so you know, that passed.
So can I marry a goat?
We'll definitely have to talk about that on another
We're gonna have to
episode.
talk about that one. I just wanted to throw that one in because that passed, and yes, that is a
Joe, quick before we start, we do another hour or two.
Yeah, another
Yeah,
hour's
definitely
about to
show.
launch here. Big thank you to Brian Merlin, to Dr.
Thank you,
Amy
Brian.
Chai, and of course to Jimmy J for giving us this 30-minute Divided We Stand episode. You can get all the latest headlines about Connecticut at ctpolitics.tv/headline-news. Make sure you follow us at CT Politics TV on social media. That will do it for us. We're back tomorrow night at 5 o'clock for another round of Connecticut Politics Live. Good night.